Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, the Real Jiro Quinn, recording this on a Monday. I hope everybody out there had a great weekend. Just a very eventful weekend, to say the least. This was the NBA. When the NBA hits, as far as trades or controversy, or when it hits, it hits. The NBA can just take over a weekend. I remember uh, when Kobe dropped 81 on Conference Championship Sunday, and that was the headline. It was Kobe's 81, not the fact that Pittsburgh and Seattle were going to the Super Bowl. So when the NBA takes over a weekend, they can actually take over the sports world, and that was the case come Saturday night, early Sunday morning, when one of the most surprising and sports shaking, earth rattling, shaking trades in the history of sports. If I be honest with you, came about with Luka Doncic going to the Lakers. Luka Doncic and second round pick going to the Lakers for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a first round pick in 2031. No one outside of Rob Pelinka and Nico Harrison saw this coming. They kept this under wraps. Um, like I said, as a Laker fan, as somebody who follows the NBA, I followed the NBA for 30 plus years. I've never seen anything like it in my life. I've been, I've seen Shaq get traded. We've seen a number of great players. I remember the Charles Barkley trade growing up. We've seen a number of big time trades in my lifetime. Gary Payton, Ray Allen, to a lesser extent, but both two Hall of Famers. So I've seen big time trades. None of them, they all pale. The Paul Gasol trade, of course, they all pale in comparison to this trade. Like nothing compares to what we witnessed on Saturday. And as a Laker fan, I'm gonna tell you right now, this trade was so bad as far as just how ridiculous it was. I haven't even begun it. Like I can't even celebrate because of how incensed I am about about what the hell is Dallas doing, was doing, and is doing. That's how bad I think this trade is from a dad. And I'm gonna give you I'll get to the LeBron piece. I'll get to the Laker perspective, but I have to begin with with the Dallas Mavericks. So I've watched a lot of shows as far as Breaking Bad, Sopranos, and things of that nature. The Wire, of course. Breaking Bad had a season three, where they really did a wonderful job of deflecting and kind of steering you towards one direction when in essence they were going they were going in another. It basically was the fact that they distracted you with the and I'm spoiler alert, the show's been off for over a decade, so whatever. Season three, they distracted you with the twins when the real threat to the entire show to Walt was Gus Fring. Gus Fring was the mastermind, and he was the one that we should have been paying attention to, but we were distracted because of the twins. I'll say that because what's coming out of Dallas right now is a bunch of distractions. Luka's weight. Luka likes to drink. Luka's not dedicated. Anthony Davis is Anthony Davis. We're better off with Anthony Davis versus with Luka. You know, we want this culture. We want players to add to our culture, not just fit in our culture. What else? Oh, this is a big one. This is the big distraction. The $345 million. Didn't want to spend $345 million on a 26-year-old superstar who's a generational talent who's already been to the finals. and already has been an MVP candidate since his second year in the league. Already been 5-time All NBA. At worst, the third best player in the world. At worst, some you think he's second, but at worst, he's number 3 in the world. And we're going to choose him. We're going to choose 2 players in Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis, who both will be in the Hall of Fame someday. But both, we're going to choose them who both who've had more career, who've missed more time than Luka, okay, and have been more injury prone than Luka Doncic. We're going to choose them over this generational talent who happens to be 5 or 6 years younger than both of them. Doesn't make sense. Don't be fooled by the distraction. The real reason why Luka Doncic is a Los Angeles Laker right now and Anthony Davis is a Dallas Maverick is Nico Harrison. Nico Harrison, plain and simple. You can believe it if you want to. You can believe it. Believe what you want. This is my opinion. Nico Harrison does not like Luka Doncic. This thing got personal. At some point because none of it makes sense when you look at it from a logistical standpoint, from a rational standpoint. I don't want to hear about. Please don't. I don't want to hear about the conditioning. Luka Doncic last year led the NBA in the playoffs. He led the NBA in total points, rebounds, assists, and steals. No player in NBA history, the NBA has been around for 80 years, has ever done that. If you listen to some people who are absolutely buying this bullshit from Nico Harrison, you would think that Luka Doncic is Zion Williamson or Luka Doncic is Joel Embiid. He is neither one of those players. Neither one of those players has ever been past the second round of the playoffs in their lives. Ever. So again, don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe with this. This is very simple. You have a general manager, again, who, in essence, I think kind of wants to be the star of the franchise. Right now, before this trade was made, it was clear who was the star of the franchise. It was clear who was the face of the franchise. It was Luka Doncic. Now, who's the face of the franchise? It's not Kyrie. It's not Anthony Davis. It's probably Nico Harrison as a general manager. This was all about ego. This was all about I'll show them. And it kind of reminds me of another Dallas situation way back when. Remember when Jerry Jones got rid of Jimmy Johnson? Now, again, the Jerry Jones situation was much worse because even though he won Super Bowls, they won a Super Bowl after Jimmy Johnson got fired. That was Jimmy Johnson's team. It's worse because that cost them. That franchise never recovered from that. In essence, they haven't been to a conference championship since 95 season, over like 30 years or 29 years and counting, because of the ego, Jerry Jones's ego, and the fact that he couldn't handle the idea that Jimmy Johnson was receiving as much, if not more, credit to him for the franchise being successful. Nico Harrison, for whatever reason, could not handle the fact that Luka was the face of the franchise, and the fact that Luka basically marched to the beat of his own drum. And let me tell you why the conditioning is a bunch of bullshit. Let me compare Luka to this legendary player who also had conditioning injuries, who ended up being an all-time great and won 4 championships. Luka, in essence, I can compare him favorably to one Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal, if you remember, came to the league, this bigger than life, just the best athlete that we had seen in the NBA, physical specimen since Wilt Chamberlain. His first 3 years, relatively healthy. Played like 81, and I think 79 games. Okay. Year 4, started having injuries, some injury issues. Started missing games. And from that point on, Shaquille O'Neal really, didn't take care of his body to the level that he should have. Now, again, he was so talented and so dominant that it didn't stop him from winning 3 straight championships, 3 straight Finals MVPs, and it ended up winning 4 championships. And he had a relatively long career, but he missed a ton of games. And that was one of the main beefs the late and great Kobe Bryant had with him was his conditioning and his commitment to his physical fitness. But did the Los Angeles Lakers give up on him before those 3 championships? No. Orlando did not re-sign him. That was just stupid. When they didn't offer him, when they didn't think that he was worth that contract. That franchise has had one Finals appearance since 1996. It really took them well over a decade to recover from that disaster, from letting Shaquille O'Neal go and him being swooped up by the Los Angeles Lakers. So when you have a talent like Luka Doncic, you put up with the bullshit, and you put up with conditioning issues. You put up with diva-like behavior, because those guys are those guys. Those are a once in a generation type players. You don't get those players don't come down the pike once every 10 to 15 years. And it's not like Dallas is drawing free agents, top-notch free agents. The talent that Dallas has drawn, has gotten over the years, has been through trades, not through free agency. Now Klay Thompson. They get Klay Thompson at the end of he's at the end of his career. He's at the end of the rope. He has maybe 2 or 3 years left. Not 3 years, maybe 2 years left, maybe if that. So Dallas is not this destination that the Lakers are, or that Miami once was. We'll see if Miami could be that destination again. It's just not that. So again, I'm not buying the idea of this conditioning, and like Luka, I'm telling you right now, Luka is not going to eat or drink himself out the league. It's not what you're saying with Zion Williamson or Joel Embiid. It's not going to happen to Luka. I'm just being honest. I'm telling you that right now. It's not. I can't put him on. He's not. He's nowhere near those guys as far as not caring about conditioning and really not giving a shit. He has more discipline than that, and he's already accomplished more than those 2 guys combined. By far, and it's not even close. Like if Luka was missing seasons, if you're missing the playoffs year in and year out, is he only if Luka was, if Luka was really out of it, like Zion Williamson, then I could totally understand this. Matter of fact, if he was like Zion Williamson, you wouldn't get Anthony Davis in return if he was on that to that extent in terms of how bad his conditioning is. So this was personal. There's no question in my mind that this was personal. And if you are, it's easy to sell an owner on not giving a player $345 million. Especially, you got to consider the ownership. The ownership, this is relatively new ownership. They just bought the team in 2023. Mark Cuban is a minority owner. And these owners, these new owners don't have a sports background like a Josh Harris, who just bought the Commanders last year. They don't have a sports background. All their money come from, they have casino money. They're worth $35 billion. So Nico Harrison had carte blanche in this. So he's without question to me the driving force behind this. There's no 2 ways about it. This was not an ownership decision. I don't buy that at all. I fully believe that Nico Harrison, this was him pulling the strings. And if Mark Cuban was the owner, this doesn't happen. I promise you. And you got to remember this. Nico Harrison did not draft Luka Doncic. There's something to be said that, but there's something to be said in any profession, corporation, sports, or otherwise. When you come in, when a person is at the top making decisions and you're not one of their guys, there's a chance that that you're not going to be around through this through a transition. People want their own guys or girl, or, or women, depending on what the occupation is. I've just seen it in real life. That plays a major factor. If Nico if Nico Harrison would have drafted Luka Doncic, we're not even having this conversation. I promise you, Luka would be on the same would still be on this would be on the Mavericks had he drafted him. He didn't draft him. And again, I there's nothing to me that says that this will turn out well for the Mavericks. I don't see it. The only thing that can justify this trade for the Mavericks if they win the championship in the next 2 years, and they have about a 2 year window. This whole idea of a 3 to 5 year window is a bunch of garbage. Trust me. I've followed Kyrie Irving and followed Anthony Davis. Those two will not stay healthy on a consistent basis for the next 3 to 5 years. It's not going to happen. You have this year and next year. That's the window to get a championship. And again, don't dismiss. And again, this whole idea of defense, 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 it sounds great, but when you get to the playoffs, you need offensive guys who can get their own shot and who can create offense when things break down. Because when you get to the playoffs, you're facing the best teams, you're facing the best defenses. You are in a best of seven series where a team can lock in on you. You need players that can get it done when the shot clock is going down. When like those, you need players who can get it done from that standpoint. Defense is not like defense sounds great. You need some defenders, but you need great generational Hall of Fame offensive talent, offensive shot creators. That's what Luka Doncic is. That's what Jason Tatum is. That's what Joker is. Those guys are shot creators that can get their own shot and they can get shots for other people. Giannis is at that level. He can get a shot for other people through what he can do going to the basket with his passing and with the attention that he draws from the defense. You need those type of players to create offense. Jamal Murray when he was playing well in that year, that 2023 year. Right now they have what? Kyrie, and that's it. That's it. Again, and when you make a decision on when you make a decision just off just emotion and when it's personal, you also don't think about what the long term picture is from a standpoint of you just gave the Los Angeles Lakers a generational talent and really reset their franchise for the next decade. Like you didn't ship them east, you put them in your own conference. Like the Lakers, the Lakers were cooked um, as LeBron ages as Anthony Davis. The Lakers were not going to build around Anthony Davis. Wouldn't have a successful reset around Anthony Davis once LeBron retires. You give them Luka Doncic, and you trade. Think about this: Luka goes to LeBron James, right? LeBron James is as well conditioned of an athlete that we've ever seen. One of the top five physical as a physical specimen, as a pure athlete, one of the top five athletes of all time in any sport. Period. Point blank. It's not even a discussion. He's a legit top five athlete ever. And I can't think, but I can't help but to think that LeBron is going to take Luka under his wing. Luka loves LeBron, looked up to him as a kid, and he's going to tell Luka, "Look, man, I believe you could be the one of the greatest ever. Let me help you." And Luka's just going to destroy the NBA. And you have to deal with that if you're Dallas in the Western Conference for the next decade. Like giving the Lakers, give him to the Lakers with LeBron still, playing at a high level, with LeBron still in the league, you're gonna put those two on the same team. And again, this for the Lakers, this is not about this year per se. They'll make a move to try to get a big, but the Lakers probably aren't going to win a championship this year. But they will be a tough out in the playoffs. You got to deal with those two in a 7-game series. And we talk about shot creation, we talk about leadership, we talk about intangibles, we talk about two guys. I mean, LeBron is now. You have a situation where LeBron is the second best player. I said the only way I felt like LeBron could win another championship if the Lakers got another player, maybe if the Lakers got another player that was better than LeBron. I never thought that was possible before Saturday night. That a guy that had to be clear heads and shoulders above better than LeBron, not just by a smidge, which Anthony Davis was at this point. I could be honest with you, I still think LeBron probably, considering the fact that Anthony Davis it's still debatable. I would give a slight edge to Anthony Davis, but a very small edge. But we're talking about, Luka is clearly better than LeBron right now. Clearly, there's not even a debate. Like I said, this guy's a top 3 player in the world. That was the only pathway for LeBron winning another championship, possibly. Again, Dallas, like I said, the only way Dallas can justify this trade is with a championship. I've watched Luka Doncic for his entire career. He basically, rookie of the year, first team All NBA, first team All NBA, first team All NBA, finals, first team All NBA. I've watched him single handedly destroy a franchise, basically destroyed the Phoenix Suns for about a couple. For the Phoenix Suns have not recovered from what Luka Doncic did to him in the second round in 2022, the conference semifinals. Like he obliterated them in a game 7. Destroyed them. He almost single handedly beat the Clippers in back to back years in 2020 and 2021. Go look at that roster in 2022 when they went to the conference finals. Dallas's roster. It was not very good. Dylan Brunson was not Jalen Brunson. Dorian Finney-Smith. I mean, they had a bunch of role players. So again, you can again these are the ones that you can try to tell yourself that this was the great, like, I give Nico Harrison credit from this standpoint of he has absolutely convinced himself that this was the right move, and he's been steadfast. He's not 10 toes down. He's like 100 toes down in thinking that this was actually not a good move, but a great move. Like, he probably has more faith in Anthony Davis than Anthony Davis has in himself, to be honest with you. But there's a reason why something like this has never happened before. There's a reason in 80 years. There's a reason why a guy 25 years old who's not even in his prime yet has not been traded when he hasn't made a demand to be traded. There's a reason. Again, I think that this is a absolute win for the Lakers. To say, I think the Lakers just like you can't make this stuff up. Like, you really can't make this. You can't write this stuff. I wouldn't, if this was written in a movie script, I wouldn't have believed it. I would not have believed it. He will love LA. He'll love the lifestyle, as far as the like laid back kind of lifestyle. The fans will gravitate towards him. Um, and he like I said, I've been now keep this in mind. I've been at times critical of Luka's conditioning, um, and his commitment, his total commitment to get towards his conditioning. But that didn't mean I wanted. That didn't mean I wanted him to be traded. That I wanted him traded if I were somebody if I were rooting for the Mavericks. I was like you could be you could be the great one of the greatest ever. If you get your conditioning in order, and you should be held accountable for your conditioning. But I didn't never go as far as thinking that, hey, you know what? I want to trade. You should be traded. No, especially not for this package. Not for the, like not when you could have shopped him in the summertime and got a better package of draft picks and even quality players. Like not for this. Sorry, all due respect to Anthony Davis, but not for the like not for this. So um we're gonna see what happens. I think that if you're Dallas, like I said, the only way that this trade is justified is you win a championship in the next 2 years. Um, for the Lakers, it's an absolute hit in the jackpot. You can't have a better if you're the Lakers, you should be just I look at as a Laker fan, I'm still in shock about it. I absolutely cannot believe that Luka Doncic is a Laker right now. If you had told me 2 or 3 years, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, okay. But right now, no. In 2025, it's already been a crazy year in 2025 in general. But boy, we must be in the Matrix. We gotta be. We have to be in the Matrix with this shit. February 25th will be the next game between the Lakers and Mavericks. Luka, they've talked about him possibly coming back around the All-Star break. We'll see. But again, I fully expect him to be. I expect him to be Luka. Like I expect him when he gets back that he absolutely will go on a tear. It might take him a few games as far as getting acclimated playing with LeBron. And LeBron off the ball can be lethal as far as setting picks. LeBron in the post. LeBron can play off the ball. Cutting. LeBron is a excellent cutter. He's not just going to stand in the corner and shoot corner threes. That's not what LeBron's going to do. And I think LeBron absolutely will acquiesce towards Luka to be honest, to get Luka comfortable in terms of what they were doing. So I'm not even worried about those two as far as playing with each other. We were talking about two basketball geniuses. They will figure that out. Of course, for the Lakers, they gotta get a big. They gotta get a big a defensive big that can go out there, and they only need scoring, just defense and rebounding from that standpoint. They still have the assets to do so with multiple first round picks, and also you have not Don Connect. They're not going to trade him. Austin Reeves. The other big trade of the weekend, which obviously took somewhat of a backseat, but it's still a big time trade. The Spurs land their man in De'Aaron Fox, so the Spurs get De'Aaron Fox, Jordan McLaughlin. Kings get Zach LaVine, City, Costco, and 3 first round picks. Also 3 second round picks. And the Bulls get Zach Collins, Trey Jones, and Kevin Herter, and a 2025 first round pick. This is a huge win for the Spurs. I mean, De'Aaron Fox is a legit top 25 player. The Spurs make this deal without giving up any real major asset as far as a core player. They keep Castle, they keep Vassell around Wembanyama, and they still have a boatload of first round picks. Like they are loaded with assets. Only Oklahoma City and possibly New Orleans probably has still a lot of first round picks and assets, but and quality assets. But the Spurs are right there. So I like what the Spurs are doing, not going for not doing anything crazy as far as taking chances with Jimmy Butler or something like that. De'Aaron Fox is like that guy is a walking bucket. He's been one of the better clutch players in the league the last 2 years, the 2 or 3 years. We saw what he did in the playoffs against Golden State a couple years ago when they almost upset Golden State. Um, he despite not wanting to be in Sacramento, he still played well for the Kings. For the most part, we know he has some limitations defensively, but when they have a out of the world. They have the best defensive player in the world right now in Wembanyama. Castle is going to be a top defensive guard. They have plenty of defensive weapons that can kind of hide, that can kind of negate the fact that Fox is not a great defensive player. And it's not like Fox is an awful defensive player, but he tries, but he's a walking bucket, to say the least. And you know, I think he will be great in that locker room. And I think, I was thinking about this from the standpoint. This is why I like to trade so much. I was asking myself the question: can Fox be the second best player on a championship team? And when you look at the last couple of years, we've seen, last year the Celtics had an all-star team. So Jaylen Brown was really their second best player, and he's going to the Hall of Fame. He'll be in the Hall of Fame someday. But 2 years previous to that, 23, you had Jamal Murray. 22, you had Andrew Wiggins. Okay, go back to 21. It was split between Drew Holiday or Chris Middleton. So Fox is every bit the player that those guys were. Every bit the player. Like somewhere in that 25 to 20 range. So I say, yeah, considering what Wembanyama has a chance to be, and you keep adding more pieces, I think you absolutely can win a championship with De'Aaron Fox as your number two, especially if you have a lot of depth, and if Wembanyama turns out to be again an MVP caliber player, a player who will eventually average 30 plus points and probably 12 to 13 rebounds and block like 4 to 5 shots without question. Listen, those days of Hall of Fame number two players, Scottie Pippens, Kobe Bryant's, even what the Lakers had in 2020 with Anthony Davis, those days are probably over with this current apron and the way that the collective bargaining agreement with teams not wanting to spin over the second apron, definitely the third apron, some teams even the first apron. But you're not going to be able to stack talent like that. Like Golden State's, what Golden State did, with the 4 Hall of Famers, and even the days of having a big three, those days are basically over. So having a De'Aaron Fox as your number two is probably as close to as good as as good as it's going to get in most cases. And again, this guy's only 27 years old. He's right in his prime. He will be absolutely motivated to play. This is a big time player who loves to play in big games. He loves the fourth quarter. Playing with a Victor Wembanyama will I think he will go on a ridiculous tear for the rest of the season. And I expect the Spurs to be at worst in the play-in. Like I really expect the Spurs to go on a run. Well, I know they're in the Western Conference, but I love this move for the Spurs. I really do, and I expect him. He absolutely will sign the extension in the summertime there. And again, the Spurs have a lot of assets that they can do. They have a lot of moves that they can make in the summertime with the draft picks that they have. People are going to want to play with Victor Wembanyama. It's not a big market, so the pressure is not that great. So you don't, because with not like Boston or LA or New York in terms of Chicago with the media. So you have a San Antonio is again mid market. So it is an ideal place to play right now. And that's a big time move for San Antonio. To make. As far as the latest on the Jimmy Butler, things fell apart with him and Golden State. Word is that he wouldn't sign the extension with Golden State. So that's that. We'll see what happens with that. I fully still expect him to be traded before the deadline is over. Again, I think Phoenix is going to land him. He will end up with Phoenix's as a Phoenix Sun, and it won't make a difference because Phoenix won't go like that. Phoenix at this point is just throwing darts at this point. But again, Big news, the big trade of this century, of this season, of this frankly of this century, it may be one of the biggest trades ever. Luka Doncic is a Laker. Anthony Davis goes to Dallas. I hope those two teams. I hope they meet in the playoffs. Like I really hope those. I really hope those two teams meet in the playoffs. It would be. I would love to see those two teams meet in the playoffs. And again, I don't. Again, this whole narrative about Luka and them being tired of Luka. Okay, thank you, Dallas. As a Laker fan, thank you, Dallas. We absolutely will take him. We absolutely will take him. Again, again, I'm telling you right now, people, Luka is not going to eat himself out the league. He's not going to eat himself out the league. Like, I, if a guy is doing what he's doing and still producing at the level he's producing, I'm sorry, you got you. I'll leave on this last point. It is your job in terms of a culture. When you have a player like Luka, it is your job to get him to buy into the culture. It's your job, like as somebody who's trying to create a culture, it is your job to get him to buy into the culture and to believe that culture can be a championship caliber culture. That's your job as a general manager, as a president of the organization, as an owner of the organization. So when you have that type of talent, the NBA is a talent driven league, pure and simple. It's a talent. You don't win without superstar talent. You're not winning without all time great Hall of Fame talent. The teams that you're going to see win championships, those guys, their best players are going to the Hall of Fame. Some of them will be considered amongst the greatest of all time. That's where we're at in the NBA right now. Look at the champions in this decade. LeBron, Giannis, Curry, Joker, Tatum, and Brown. All those guys are going to the Hall of Fame, and three of them will be amongst probably three of the top 15 to 20 players of all time. So that is the level of talent that you have to have in order to win in the NBA. It's a talent-driven league. So you have if you have a guy like Luka Doncic, your coach, you have to convince him, sell him on your culture, and have him fit into your culture. It is your job to have him buy into your culture. Period. It is your job to make it work. If I was an owner and I had any sports background, clearly clearly that the new Dallas owners did not have, and Nico Harrison came and approached me with this, I would say make it work. It's just that simple. Make it work. Like Pat Riley told LeBron and Dwayne Wade or LeBron when they wanted to fire Eric Spoelstra, no. Make it work. We're not getting rid of Eric Spoelstra. He's going to, I project him, he's going to be a Hall of Fame coach. He can coach. We're not, make it work. So that's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of this abbreviated edition of the Ril Dil Podcast. I'm going to save the football for later on in the week where we'll have my Super Bowl pick. We'll break down the game. We'll do an entire podcast on that. But I just wanted to focus on the basketball today. Again, just one of the most unique trades and surprising trades in the history of the NBA. Maybe in recent sports history, to be honest with you, is one of those transcending trades that we will be talking about for the next 30, 40, 50 years. They might write books about this trade, to be honest with you. Have a great rest of your evening. So long.